Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Nez's Place podcast. I am your host, Vanez Davis, and thank you for being here with me this evening. I really appreciate all my returning and new listeners. I do appreciate you. Well, you know, this show focuses on real issues and topics, and we're all about transparency, motivation, encouragement, and inspiration. So if you know someone who needs a positive push, please share the link with them. Well, over the past few weeks, we've been talking about getting our lives back. The first segment, we discussed the importance of letting the past go and how we should not be consumed by our past. And we can't let the past drive, because if we do, we are sabotaging ourselves. So we have to learn how to let things go. Then we moved on and we talked about showing up and why it's important to show up, and ways that we show up and ways that we don't. We outlined some of the negative and the positive areas that have a huge impact on how we show up for ourselves and others and life. So the takeaway from that show, I would say, would be what's on the inside determines how we show up in life. So when we show up, we want to show up 100% on the positive side. So you want to check out that show. Well, we're going to roll into this week's segment, which I feel is significant because many of us are dealing with this particular issue, and many don't know how to manage it. So I'm going to give a little bit about how do we manage that thing called stress. So this show is entitled Defusing Bad Stress, because life the way it is and all the obligations that we have to face daily, things like running a business, making sure our business runs smoothly, work, projects, family responsibilities, struggling to finish school, social and political issues. That's if you follow the political arena, if you're really involved in it. That can really stress you out, watching TV, watching all that on TV. Yes, it can. Along with financial issues and day-to-day frustrations that can cause us to stress out. We know how it is. We can just stress out. And what is stress? Stress is an arousal of the mind and the body in response to demands made upon us. And we know everyone doesn't handle stress the same way. Everyone handles it differently. But we do know that too much stress can lead to health problems. And we definitely don't want to live there. We want to make sure that we manage and learn how to manage the stress in our lives, because there are 3 different types of stress. There's the good stress, the bad stress, and the ugly stress. Oh, we don't want the ugly stress. The good stress: excitement, stimulation, creativity, success, achievement, increased productivity. Then we have the bad stress, which is boredom, frustration, pressure, poor performance, decreased productivity, headaches, indigestion, colds, unhappy, disharmonious relationships. And some of us can really understand that or identify with that. Then we have the ugly stress, which causes ulcers, heart attacks, cancer, anxiety, depression, and a nervous breakdown. We definitely need to stay away from the ugly stress. We don't need to have that in our lives. We need to avoid that if all possible. Definitely. And many people will say, oh, girl, don't stress out. How many times we hear people say, don't stress out about it. But it's so much easier said than done, because if you don't know where your stress is coming from, and we're going to talk about identifying where it's coming from, it helps you to manage it a little bit better, because we don't want to be spinning out of control and not being able to identify what's causing the stress. And personally, you know, I love telling you a personal story. Yes, I do, because I want you to know that I am transparent. Personally, for me, many years ago, when I was in my 30s, and before I learned how to manage the stress in my life, I went through a phase where I was so stressed out. I mean, to the point where I was pulling my hair out in spots, covering over, to make sure you couldn't see it. I ate too much and just had a lack of energy. I had no outlet. And neither did I. I didn't talk to anyone either. So that's important. I didn't talk to anyone, kind of internalized everything. So, but can you imagine me not talking to anyone? Yeah, go figure. Times have definitely changed. And I grew up and I learned how to manage my stress. Oh my God. What a revelation. What a way to live, to know that you can manage it. Because if you don't, it becomes this thriving force that has a negative effect on our lives. But first, for me, I had to understand and identify where the stress was coming from. And that is so vital. I had to deal with it and face it head on. I had to learn how to open up and talk. That was me and how I handled it. It did help me over the years. And now I can say I pretty much am really good about mastering, how to handle stress, especially when people come to you and they're stressing out. What I in return do is try to help them put things into perspective so that they can take a really good look, step back and look at it and help them to see, hey, look, you need to really think about this. It's not that bad if you can just do this. So I really try to help people and coach people along to really not be so stressed out about life and things that happen in our lives that sometimes that are not in our control. But once we determine the cause of any stress in our lives, we can put things into perspective, like I was saying. And we'll have to take an assessment of it by asking ourselves internal questions like, can I fix this? Is this out of my control? I mean, what part can I play in managing this in my life? And why do I feel like this? Sometimes you have to step back and say, why am I feeling like this? Even at work, you're fine. Things are going well. You're doing your work. Then all of a sudden something happens. And then you get this stress because either someone asked you to do something, you don't have the resources to get it done. But you have to step back and say, okay, why am I feeling like this? What's the biggest part of getting this done? So you have to make sure that you manage it that way. Because many of us are walking around like zombies, internalizing stress, which is very, very dangerous to our health. And we don't want to live in that place. Because life itself, like I said, it creates stress. So let's talk about the stress triggers, the warning signs, there's the physical symptoms, the changes in sleep patterns, indigestion, loss of sexual drive, breathlessness, headache, and palpitations. Then you have the mental part of the trigger, which is the lack of concentration, memory lapse, difficulty making decisions, confusion, disorientation, and panic attacks. Then you have the behavioral symptoms, which is the appetite changes, too much or too little, increase the use of tobacco or drugs, fidgeting, nail biting, and grinding your teeth. Then we have the emotional symptoms, which is frequent mood changes, being impatient, fits of rage, tearfulness, deterioration of personal hygiene and appearance. And those are things to kind of pay attention to, especially when you're dealing with other people. If you're able to identify and remember some of those triggers, it would help you to see what's going on with a person, to see why they are acting that way today, and it also helps you to assess yourself, because I believe in order for us to be emotionally healthy, we have to learn to de-stress. And that's vital in life. We have to learn to de-stress. And I want to share just a few examples on how to control the stress in our lives and learn to say no. That's the biggest one. Then right off the back, learn to say no. And no is a sentence. I believe no is a sentence. Sometimes we take on too much responsibilities. You'll be obligated to fulfill all these yeses that you have in your life, but you have to learn to say no. I just can't do it. Don't put too much on yourself, because then you'll be too overwhelmed and then you'll start to stress out. The breakdown of large stressful events and projects into manageable sizes. So break down large stressful events or projects into smaller, manageable sizes. And rest, and rest. You want to make sure you get some rest. Drink a glass of wine if you need to. Take a bath. Walk the dog. Go sit in the sun if we ever get any. Well, we had some today, but, if it stays around, looks like it's going to rain. Get organized. Stay physically active. Make a list of all the things that you like to do. Start a hobby. Sometimes we can be stressed because we're bored, because we don't have anything to do. TV is wonderful. It's some really good shows, but sometimes that can even be, okay, it's not stimulating my mind. I need to do something else, and that can be stressful. So we want to make sure that you kind of find some ways to control the stress in our lives. And that's really, really important. I will be sharing some of these in the show notes. So if you didn't catch them all, I will be adding a few more of the de-stressors in the show notes as well. But when we sit back and contemplate our lives, I'm sure we can all remember times when we have encountered stressful times. Maybe you're listening now, or maybe you're feeling a little overwhelmed and you feel like you're being smothered by life circumstances. Or maybe you just don't know why you feel the way you do. Remember, the key factors here is you have to, one, identify, and then you have to assess. You have to understand why you are stressed. And that is important. If you identify, assess, understand, it would help you to manage it a little bit better, because then you'll be able to maybe journal, write things down. Maybe something you're stressing about is really not anything to be stressed over. But until you really take an assessment, you won't realize that. Take a minute to walk. Take a deep breath. Deep breathing is really good for us, because did you know that we breathe shallow all throughout the day? At night before you go to sleep, take some deep breaths in and out, in and out. You'll be amazed how you sleep. You'll sleep so much better. And I'm going to give you a little tip right here. If you like tea, herbal tea, and add a little turmeric in your tea at night, it's a really good soother. It's really great for inflammation. But I just want to put that little plug in there because I took some last night. I slept like a little baby. So whatever you're doing before you're stressed, remember, you have to think about, what was I doing before I was so stressed out? What happened? Kind of do a rewind and see, what was going on in your life, what was going on at work, what was going on with the family. If you can think about what triggers your stress, it will help you to manage it a little bit better. Remember, this is essential. It's an essential part of being stress-free, meaning there's going to be some stress in our lives, okay? That's just a given. But how you manage it makes the difference, okay? That's the difference. Asking yourself why, what, how, do I have control over this? That's going to make the difference. And remember, like I said, just pray. Do whatever you need to do to relax, walk, listen to music, play. Like I said, I love my dog, so play with your dog, whatever. If you have one, cat, whatever, bird, fish, whatever. Look at the fish tank. Sometimes that can be relaxing for some people. But remember, you can't have control over everything, but you can control what stresses you out. You need to learn to have a woosah moment, okay? Face it and keep on stepping, because we may not be able to get rid of, like I said, the stress 100%, but that's just life, and that's just the way it is. But we have to learn how to manage it. It's all the way we handle it that makes the significant difference. So handle it, okay? One day at a time. Because we are confident the word tells us in 1 Peter 5:7, we have to cast all our cares on him. It also says, Isaiah 26:3, how we have to think about, when we think about the Lord, how he keeps our mind in perfect peace when we keep our mind on him. So there's a lot of things that we can do to de-stress. And hopefully I've said some things to help you put things into perspective and think about how you stress out in your own life, and maybe learn how to not stress on the little things. Like I said, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's just not important. You can handle it without stressing. And I want to leave you with this quote that I thought was beautiful for today's show. Today I will breathe. Today I will think of a solution. Today I will not let my worry control me. Today I will not let stress level break me. Today I will simply breathe and it will be okay because I don't quit. Today I will breathe. And that is what I want you to do today. I want you to breathe. I want you to know that every day you get up and you breathe, inhale, exhale, and be thankful for that day. Whatever happens that day, you just keep going. Don't let things set you back. Okay, well, that's all I have for you today. That's our show. So tune in next week for more of Get Your Life Back series. I think we're going to do one more, and then we're going to move on to a different show. And remember to shoot on over to the Nezzy's Place website to listen to previous episodes. You can also order the book, Girlfriend, Your House is a Mess. Please connect with me on all social media platforms. You can see that on the website. And if you would like to contact me, you can give me a call at 585-210-8186. The link will be accessible after the air date, so please continue to share the link. And like I always say, everyone, you know what I say. It's your life, your house, and your rules. Stay stress-free, people. Learn to live your life to the fullest, and defuse the stress in your life. Remember, life is a gift, and we have to always, always enjoy it. I'm out. See you next week.